Hi everyone, my name is Tina, also known as Bloomingknitter, and this is Knitting Blooms. Thanks so much for joining me today. Before I jump in with all of my knitting this week, I just want to give you a couple of life updates. Sammy is doing okay. We did have to raise his insulin this past week a little bit. He's now on a quarter of a unit, and right now we're holding that for about 10 doses to see how he does. Everything else about him is fine, but we're just going with the increase because his number started to come up a bit and he needed more insulin support, so that's what we're giving him. What else? Oh, the Woolly Trot is coming up this next week as well. I did get my shirt last week and I was very excited about that. So that was fun to receive, and it reminded me that it's time to do the Woolly Trot. I have been running a bit, not a lot. Still doing a walk-run combination because I had not been running or walking for a number of months. So I didn't want to get back into it too crazy. So I am planning on doing the Woolly Trot in the next week or so. And I'm not planning on having any miraculous time. I think my best time for a 5K is around 36 minutes. And honestly, I don't think I'm close to that right now. I'm probably at about 40 minutes right now. I want to say my best time is about 36 minutes. Maybe a little bit under 36 minutes. But I'm not a very fast runner. And, you know, it is what it is. I don't ever expect to be a really fast runner. I don't expect to win the race. I just want to get the workout and get it done. So if you have registered for the Woolly Trot, don't forget to do your race next week. And I'm not sure where to enter for prizes. I know that there are prizes. And I think you're supposed to do a screenshot of your GPS app or your treadmill or something to that effect. But I'm not sure where to post that. I haven't seen any information about it on Rain Lovers group, and I did see that there was a thread for the Woolly Trot, but there was no recent chatter on that thread, so I'm not exactly sure. I might have to contact her and find out. Also, I wanted to remind you about the lottery for Knittopia 2016. We are still have, the lottery is still open for right now. You just have to post on the Ravelry group, either in the Knitting Blooms Ravelry group or the Knittopia Ravelry group. If you'd prefer not to post into the group and you still would like to enter the lottery, just contact me as a PM on Ravelry, because what I'm planning on doing is taking all of the entries out of those two threads and putting them in a spreadsheet and then cutting up the little slips of paper. Some people have said I'm coming with these people and I'll put those 3 people's name on one slip, but then make 3 separate entries for that. So that's my plan as of right now, and then just putting in a basket and drawing names. I just think that's the easiest way. It's not like I have 150 spots, so it's not going to be a whole lot of work. So that's my plan, and then what I'll do is just draw a name. Your name will have your name and what leg you want, and whatever is available at the time that I draw your name is what you'll get. So let's say, for instance, you have first weekend or second weekend, and I draw your name and the first weekend's already filled up, then you'll automatically get the second weekend. If you have full retreat, and you know, I'm only doing so many spots for full retreat. I think I'm going to do probably 10 spots, which is what we've had in the past for full retreat. If I filled up, I can't speak today. If the full retreat, those spots have been filled up for full retreat, then you'll get, you know, whatever you know, if you want first weekend and midweek or whatever. So that's how that'll work. And so forth. It's just, and then if it's already full, if you can only do the first weekend and it's already full for the first weekend, then your name will be the first on the wait list for if somebody should cancel. But like I said, if you don't want to post in the thread, just go ahead and contact me via PM on Ravelry, and I'll make sure that your name gets on the spreadsheet. What else? So let's jump into the knitting. I have a couple of finished objects. If you haven't already noticed this lovely shawl or cowl that I'm wearing, this is the I think it's pronounced Adame. I'm not sure. It's Adame cowl. And I love it. It's the cowl that this is the Malabrigo Rios, which is the first time I've ever used this yarn, and I really like it. And this pattern was super quick, and I really like the construction, and I can definitely see myself making more of this cowl. And also, I've got a few ideas in my head about designing my own cowl with this sort of construction. So it is, it's really nice. Now there are a couple things that I would do different. Let me see if I can show you a better picture. So it's a cowl, but it's big enough that you can bring it up and put it over your shoulders, which is what I really like about this pattern. Because you can pull it down over your shoulders, it can be just around your neck, and it just really is amazing how warm just something around your neck makes you. So I really like it. I really like it a lot. I'm hoping to start the other cowl that's similar to this but in fingering weight. I'm hoping to start that this week. But yeah, I really, really like it. Let me take it off so I can show you a little bit closer. So it's kind of like a half circle. There's the stitch pattern. It's kind of like a half circle. It starts off, I should say, it starts off kind of like a half circle shawl. And then instead of just continuing out, you join in the round. So it becomes a cowl, and I really, really, really like this construction. Now, I would do a couple things different. And these are just because I should have been thinking ahead of time, and then I didn't feel like changing it after the fact. The first thing that I would do different, because this is Malabrigo Rios, and it's a kind of a hand-dyed, I did alternate skeins. I probably didn't need to alternate skeins because both of the skeins had the same kind of number on the back. I don't think it's a die-lot number, but it probably would have been fine, although you just never know. So it's always good to alternate no matter what. So I did alternate skeins. Now, the mistake that I made was I changed skeins on a wrong side row. And this is what it looks like. It doesn't look bad. Let's see if it'll focus on. There we go. So you see kind of the edge of the knitting. It's you kind of can see it carried up. Now, on the other side, you can't really see it as much, that carried thread. Let me see if I can get it to focus again. Focus. There we go. You can't see it as much. So if I did this again, I would definitely carry my yarn on the back side of my work. It looks fine, which is why I didn't go back and rip it out and start again. But I think it would have looked nicer had I carried it on the back. Now, since I have blocked it, it looks better than it did when I was actually working with it. So it's really not a problem. And you can see it a little bit on the back, but not as much. But again, it's around the collar, and for the most part, I had that part like kind of turned under a little bit when I was wearing it, and it kind of slouched. So you really don't see it. So it's not that big of a deal. But if I did it again, that's what I would do. The second thing is I would bind off with a larger needle. Now, I typically do this. I did not do it for this project because I thought I was casting off loosely enough, and when I put it on, it is a little tight. It's not a lot tight, but it could be a little bit looser now because I have there is a limit to how far this stretches. So I would cast it off probably 2 sizes larger than what I'm currently using for the stitch. And like I said, I typically do that, but I was purposely casting off very loosely, but apparently it wasn't quite loose enough. But I really do love this, and like I said, I anticipate coming out with my own pattern that's similar to this construction probably. I'm not exactly sure if I will do the half circle or if I will try to do kind of like a triangular one. I'm not really exactly sure, but I'm just going to kind of start playing with it, and hopefully I can come up with something very cool and everybody will like it and want to purchase the pattern. But if you don't already have this pattern, I highly recommend it. And there's also the other one I'm making, I think it's called Star Shower. It's in fingering weight, and I also recommend that, and it's a similar construction to this, except it's fingering weight. Very nicely written pattern. There was one section at the beginning of the round where you have to move the marker a couple of times, and that was a little weird, but it's in the back of the work and it goes behind your head, and so I think the biggest thing was there's a yarn over right at the same time as you're moving the marker, and then at the same time I was changing skeins. So I think the first time around I ended up losing my yarn overs and had to finagle it so that I had the right number of stitches. And then the second time around I was a little bit more careful with that, so I didn't lose my stitches, although on the back you'll see the line that zigzags where the see that? That's where I carried the yarn up the back. So it zigzags over and then it zigzags back, and so it's a little wonky that way, but it's on the back. It's not a big deal. And if you're using just one skein, or you're using something that doesn't have to be alternated, then you have, it's a little bit better for you. But that is my first finished object, and I absolutely love it. I can't wait till it starts to get cool again so I can wear it. I have a feeling that I'm going to be wearing that a lot, and any kind of pattern like that, which is why I think I'm going to be designing a few of my own patterns in that same type of construction. The second project I have to show you is a huge blanket that still has not had the ends woven in. And this is the log cabin blanket number 1. I wove in some of the ends, but not all of them yet. I talked I don't know if it was last week, can't remember, but I did talk about, let me see if I can find a way to show this to you, about the border. I don't know, I can't even really show you how it is, but it's the modern log cabin, okay? And it's pretty huge, and actually the yarn that I used was Deborah Norville Everyday. The pattern calls for a DK weight yarn, although I did use a worsted weight, so my blanket is larger than what the pattern calls for, but I wanted it to be larger, so that's perfectly fine. I did use a size 8 needle, and it turned out great. Now, I did talk about the border a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't decide what I was going to do. Now, I looked at all of the patterns online, all the projects, I should say, online, and the ones that I liked the best were the ones that had a very narrow border. And that's what I decided to go with. So I have the border, it's all the way around, so it kind of unites the blanket. I felt like before adding the border, the blanket was fine, but I think it just pulls it all together having that border on there. It's kind of, when you're done with block number 10, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to be done with this blanket. I don't want to add a border. I would say add the border. Take the time to add the border. You will be much happier with the blanket. So what I did, I think the pattern calls for like 4 ridges or 6 ridges or something like that on the border, and having a mitered edge and so forth and so on. Well, I didn't really like the mitered edge so much because you don't really knit it all the way around. I mean, I suppose you could pick up stitches all the way around, do the increases where they tell you to do the increases, and have the miters on the corners look nice. But the way that they instruct you to do it is to increase on the ends and then basically mattress stitch the edges, the mitered corners. And I wasn't really liking how that was looking, so I decided not to do that. Plus, with the more narrow border, it wasn't really called for. So all I really did was I picked up stitches along the edge, and then I cast them off on the very next row. I could have done like one full row. I could have picked up the stitches, then knit a row, and then knit another row, and then bound off, so it would have been a little bit wider. But I really just liked that really simple border, so that's what I did. I just picked up the stitches on the first row and then bound them off on the very next row. And I really like how it turned out. And it is quite large. I would say that it's probably 60 inches. I haven't measured it, and like I said, I still have ends that need to be woven in. As I went and I saw ends when I was working on the last square, I did try to weave in some of them as I went, but not all of them. And then I have the corners. Now what I did for the corners on this, I just picked up the stitches, and then if there was already a border on the other side, I just picked up an extra stitch on the end of that border. So it should all come together. Now it kind of looks like this border is a little bit gappy, so I'll just kind of pull this around and close it off when I seam those ends in. But yeah, it's done. And I have started the second blanket. The second blanket has been started. I believe I'm on block 3. I think I'm almost done with block 3. And it's pretty, I mean, it's all garter stitch, so it's a pretty easy project to work on, and not really have to think. Once I get the stitches cast on, just knit, 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 count my ridges every now and then, and go. The next project that I'm going to show you, actually the only other project I'm going to show you, is the citron, which there's really not a whole lot to show you with the citron because it is only stockinette with some puckers, but I am on section 5. I have no idea how many sections I'm going to do. I have 4 skeins of Knit Pick Shadow. Honestly, if I use all of these skeins, I will be amazed because I'm on section 5 now, and I'm still on the first skein. Now, I believe that when I did mine, I used 2.5 skeins of, I think it was Malabrigo. It was a lace weight. I don't remember how many yards per skein. But I want to say I did 9 or 10 sections on mine. I will have to double check, but that's what I thought I did. But this is where I was the last time I showed you, and I did basically I was halfway through the third section. I finished the third section and then started the fourth section, and now I have started the fifth section. I currently have somewhere close to 450 stitches on my needles, so it takes me a while to knit a row. So we'll see how it goes. I was very tempted to join this in the round and make it into a cowl, kind of like the shawl or the cowl I just finished. But this is for my mom, and I don't know if that's what she would want with it. So I'm just going to do it the way that it was designed, and hopefully she'll like it. Like I said, I have 4 skeins of this. I have 1 more skein of this color blue, and then 2 skeins of darker blue. And I guess I'm just going to kind of see how it goes. If I get to like, I might go more than 10 repeats. I'm not really sure yet. I'm just going to see how big it is, and then make my decision. I do want to have at least 1 or 2 sections at the bottom in the darker blue, hopefully, and the ruffle. So we'll see. But there it is. It's coming along. It's a slog. It's lace weight. I work on it for a while, and then I kind of need a break from it because it is lace weight, and it's kind of hard to work with because I can't really knit and not look at it as I'm knitting as much as I can with like a fingering weight or something a little heavier, because I'm never sure if I'm catching the stitch properly. So those are my projects. Like I said, I've already started block 3 on the log cabin number 2. The elk tooth shawl is still in timeout, but I've got some tips on how to continue with the pattern, and I'm hoping to finish that up this week. My polka dot scarf is still moving along. It's a slow go, but I am very much enjoying that project. I do keep it out and, you know, work on it a little bit here and there. Sometimes I don't want to be fiddly with, you know, paying attention to what I'm looking at doing, or, you know, really focused and watching what I'm doing. So I can't work on it all of the time, but when I'm watching a show that doesn't require my visual watching, then I'll work on it then. I haven't really worked on my Spinning Fate socks lately. I really should get to work on those because I really would like to start my Knitopia socks. What else? Ecuador is still on hold. I'm probably not going to restart that just yet because I really want to start the sugar maple sweater, and I need to do a gauge swatch. So I'm hoping to get to that this week, do the gauge swatch on that so I can block it and make sure it's to gauge, and then hopefully get that started in the next week or so. Also, I am hoping to finish up my fall mystery shawl from last year, the larger size, so that I can release the pattern as a, you know, a finished pattern rather than just the mystery. And that, in addition to trying to determine what I want to do with a new pattern, you know, as well. What else? I haven't done any spinning in the last couple of weeks. I haven't done spinning since before Knitopia. That's pretty sad. But in the summertime, I tend not to spin as much, so it's not that unusual for me. Excuse me. We do not have any drawings this week. We did all of our drawings last week and the week before. We will have more drawings the first week in June, probably. And I think that's about it. I still have some book reviews that I need to get done. Hopefully I can get those done in the next several weeks. I do want to do the tutorial for the double knitting now that I'm really getting the hang of it and really enjoying that. What else? I think that's about it. I haven't had any progress on my knit swirl. I haven't done any preemie hats for May, and I haven't worked on my sock yarn blanket at all in May. So I really need to get caught up on those two things, because I think I was caught up for preemie blanket or preemie hats in April. May I haven't done any, and I was even behind on my sock yarn blanket squares for April. I think I have 2 squares, maybe 1.5 squares for April. And then I haven't done any for May. So I'm really behind on the squares. I really need to pull that blanket out, but it just seems like every time I pull out the bigger projects, Sammy wants to sit on my lap, and I can't really work on those projects when Sammy's on my lap. So mostly because I want to have him be comfortable, and I can't. He sits right on my lap, and those big projects have to be on my lap. So that means that the projects have to be on him, and then he gets annoyed because I'm moving the project around. So I just tend to work on a smaller project when he's sitting on my lap. But yeah, that's about it this week. I'm probably going to record again next week. I'm not 100% sure. Like I keep mentioning, that I might go to a bi-weekly recording schedule, but we'll just see how things go. Right now I'm getting a lot of knitting done, so I'll probably record next week. Who knows? But I might also start posting the entrelac tutorials as well, because I know everyone's anxious to start doing that, and I want to finish up writing the pattern. And then as soon as I do that, I will post the pattern, which I think I'm going to post it for like $1 or $2 or something like that. I have to review again how much work I put into writing the pattern. I know it's a simple pattern, but the way that I have it written for turning your work, as well as knitting backwards, and also I have a stockinette entrelac and a garter entrelac. So I think there's going to be enough in the pattern that will encourage you, if you want to learn both ways, that it'll encourage you to purchase the pattern. Although all the information will be available in the tutorial as well. So you don't necessarily have to have the pattern, but if you like to have something in writing to follow along, then you have that. So thanks so much for watching. I do have a quick video to share with you for the birds this week. They have been growing like mad. I can't believe how big they have gotten. In fact, I'll put a quick picture of when they first were born, and then the most recent picture that I have, and then which is a week later, and then a short video of the birds feeding and what have you before the credits roll. So again, thanks so much for watching. Have a great week. Bye for now. As always, thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Please feel free to contact me with your comments or suggestions, as I am always trying to improve the show. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube as Bloomingknitter. You can also find me on Plurk, Twitter, and Pinterest as Bloomingknitter, but I don't frequent those sites as often. I post show updates on Twitter and Facebook, and sometimes to Google Plus and Plurk. I am Miss Aerobics on MyFitnessPal and Fitbit. You can always find all the old episodes as well as links to the tutorials on the blog at www.knittingblooms.com. And you can also follow the show on Facebook. You can email me at knittingblooms@gmail.com, and show notes can be found at knittingblooms.com.